Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Lots to talk about. Interesting story with this gentleman's background. He is an accomplished architect in the New York City area, but he's also been a tennis pro from back in the day when he was in his early 20s and upper teens, and just amazing stories. We've centered on architecture before. We're going to pivot back to his tennis career and learn some more about his background. John Riggio is back with us on the program. Hey, John, how you doing?
Hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, lots that we've talked about in the past, and you did mention last time about the tennis contract you had and maybe some differing numbers. I think you want to clarify something from the last time, right?
Yes, I was just reviewing a lot of videos and thinking about the past, and the contract I had with Ross Perot was really like about $28.5 million. But we
Wow.
were, even at the time, we were just using the word 26.5 because I was in the category of a lot of entertainers that have a $25 million contract. So it was even higher than 25. It was really getting closer to 30 million.
So when we say those numbers, give us some perspective what that means. It doesn't mean that they put $30 million in your pocket. Take us through that journey, with the contract.
I think that contract amount is really the value of my playing
Gotcha.
that is owned by the sponsors. And the sponsors might number one or more people. And together, that is my value. And then from that, I think just from the description I gave of playing those matches, they were able to make a large profit, well over $28.5 million. So
Wow.
each match was worth millions of dollars. It was all legally done, and they had to have all approvals from the ATP. All kinds of papers are filed with courts, and it's also is all legally done with sport investing. So that is how that whole value came about, and that is really why I was describing that I was a really big money winner playing honest ATP matches. I always played just strictly ATP matches too.
Now, was that contract with Ross Perot?
Yes, that is with Ross Perot. And then from there, I described that the Japan investors bought my contract for $100 million. And I was just remembering the past now that since we were puzzled on what to do and they did not know how to solve the problems, and I think I had described on one of the previous shows that I had called the Mitsubishi main office and told them they need people higher in the organization. So what happened was weeks later, my sponsors in Japan called me and told me that the main office there wants to talk to me again. So I called them on the phone, and they started to get an idea of what I was talking about, but they couldn't correct it. What they did was they just told me that they were going to start to offer my contract for sale to sport investors in the country of France, in Europe, and but they were going to try to offer my contract off to try to make a little profit. I think they were going to try to maybe start with like $150 million. That was really where that contract was. They were trying to move it up and give it to someone else who maybe can make money on it, who had more knowledge in playing the sports and things like that. So that was what was happening as far as that contract was concerned.
So when you wrapped up your career, what was the contract amount at the very end?
Since the Japan investors weren't able to really reset it again, it just stayed at $100 million.
Gotcha. Wow. I can't even imagine having a number like that on my back. You know what I'm saying? That, they see that value in you. Just amazing. Just amazing numbers. Did you, knowing that, there's a 30 million, maybe upwards of $50 million contract on you, did you feel pressure to perform and do well?
No, I was always used to having a contract starting off from the very beginning. when I was sponsored, there was a contract amount that was assigned to my playing, and it slowly grew from like 500,000 moving up to million. Then at Sutton East, it was $5 million, and then it continued to go up from there.
Wow. You did a little bit of research and you found your card. Now, this is the, I guess, call it the player's card. But if we were to see it, we might not know it's you, right?
Yes. Well, what's happened is it is me there. I think if you were to look at that page that I had set up, and I have my photographs, and even looking at the videos here, you could I do look the same. I think the only thing is that my hair appeared like very light brown. I have brown hair, but my hair appeared to be very light brown. And I think that it was like a usual thing for kids, like in their teens and 20s. Maybe you're out in the sunshine and you think your hair is getting bleached.
Sure.
And from talking to different people who've seen my player card, I have seen my player card myself. I don't have the player cards, but I've seen them. They've showed them to me, and the hair color looks a little blonde. Even on the Tony Roach video that I have on my page and I've showed before, my hair looks lighter, like a very light brown, and that was really just. It was just, I think maybe because I was like a star at the time or sun bleached or something, but that is how my hair looked. Remember, we even asked the doctor about it, why my hair looks like that.
Right.
And it was just like an optical illusion. I think it's typical of a lot of stars you might read in the tabloids today. You see thinking they dye their hair, and that's really their natural hair color. I mean, it might have adjusted slightly. So that is what the story was why my hair looked very light, even blonde hair.
Well, a lot of us don't remember what we did back in the day. I mean, we're talking, decades back. When I see pictures of myself when I was in my low 20s, I'm like, I don't remember my hair looking like that, or I don't remember, that mustache or whatever it might have been back then. So is it possible that maybe you lightened your hair and then you don't remember it? Now you see it in the pictures and it's like, huh, wait a minute, that's me. Hey, it is me. I don't remember doing that. Is that possible?
No, that was just my natural hair. I think it's typical of most kids in their teens, 20s, that their hair can look light like that.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't think I don't think it's strange. But what happened is, I think when people look at the card, they're just looking at my hair color and trying to make a match, and my hair just appears a little lighter at those
Gotcha.
times.
Yeah. Interesting. How about you were in relationships? You had a girlfriend back then, right?
Yes. Well, I think one point about Delilah that I had said that some things were even worse. One of them was that horrible story I said. Just to make it even worse, the kid that her father forced her to live with. It turns out he was the same kid who, for many years, she used to tell me was really the father's gay lover. I mean, this is really unbelievable. So it was really much worse. I mean, that's one story. But I think later, as far as tennis is concerned, I did make a new friend, which was very interesting. That was more matched with also my professional work, with architect work, and I had made friends with Elizabeth Dahl. And I originally had said on the show that we had met at at the Philippine embassy, and was the first time me. But in fact, I did know her at Sutton East. She was there. She had visited me, and we had made friends. And she used to come in between matches. We used to talk to each other, get to know each other, and then what happened was she also she did see some of my big matches. She did watch my big matches, and one very interesting time at that point was she is also has an entertainment career. And at the one we had met there, we both had contracts of $5 million, which was very interesting. So we both had an even $5 million. I think shortly after my contract started to move up, it started to go up to 15 million, then headed up to past the 25 million mark, and then but we both had $5 million contracts. So she was using a name Tia Ding. And what happened was she did work on some of the projects. One was the Philippine embassy, and one was the catering hall, which brought a lot of world leaders there at opening. And she did a lot of some interior design work on both of those projects that I did the architectural drawings for.
Wow.
So we did work together on those two projects. They were both pretty good, important jobs, and so she helped out with that. So that was very interesting, and yeah, so I ended up knowing her for a long, long time, and she's doing pretty good.
Take me back to the early years. Um, when you were doing tennis, at what point did you pivot to architecture? Or were they kind of this, were they moving at the same time where you were playing tennis, but you were also studying architecture, or were you fully amassed in tennis at one point and then jumped into wanting to be an architect?
Well, I think what happened was I had gone through a few careers, and I think architect work was already an idea to do the architect work. I had a lot of training already, and looks like it was going to work out pretty good as far as working as an architect in the profession, and then also having a career playing tennis. Because the whole thing with the money, not knowing if you're going to really collect the money,
Yep.
when is uncertain. So they always like all the players to have a backup career that they can make money on the side, and architect work fit in pretty good. And so I went ahead with the architect work. So it was really at the point of when I was really graduating that looked like architect work was going to fit in with my schedule. It was flexible enough. I can work as an architect, and I can continue the professional tennis playing, and it wasn't going to affect my career too much. I think one thing about architect work, which was very interesting also to point out, when I was graduating, when I started to go into architect school, I also got accepted into Cooper Union, which is in Manhattan, which was just another school. And but it was very interesting because then when I was playing at St. Neat's as a gift, they did give me acceptance into Cooper Union again with free tuition. But I think this whole thing with the Cooper Union, it didn't, for some reason, the school Cooper Union, that I didn't go to attend there. I didn't go to attend there, even though I did get in 2 times and ended up getting the gift of the free tuition. I didn't attend there. I stayed with NYIT, New York Institute of Technology.
Do you would you say that you had architecture as your plan B? Like it was always floating out there. If the tennis thing, if you didn't see the dollars, even though you had the contract, if you didn't see the dollars coming your way, did you have that as a backup plan?
As far as architect work?
Yeah.
Yes, architect work was the backup plan. I think the free tuition at the Cooper Union would also could help that too.
Gotcha.
There was some stops there. So what happened was, yeah. So the architect work did work because I can make a simple money. It didn't have to build up to a big thing with getting money with architect work. You
Sure.
can pretty much get started after your first year. You get some basic knowledge to make some money on the side. So that is how architect work was, and that seems to be working pretty good.
I know we talked about the perks that you got. There was a Mercedes at one point that they allowed you to have or drive. How about some of the other stuff? Any other cars?
Well, yeah, there was that McLaren I talked about. One interesting point about the McLaren too that I didn't point out, but there was one reason why I couldn't drive the car is because that car requires a training course, and the training course was all the way in November, and I was there in the middle of August. So there's no way for me to really to get the training class early. So I would have to wait till November to really get the training course because they said the car is so fast you could drive it right off the road. It really is required to have a training course to drive a car.
Wow. Did they allow you to have free use of these vehicles? I know that the Mercedes, because of insurance and the whole situation that it wasn't always yours to drive. They would display it under your name, but were you able to drive these vehicles at some point?
Uh, those particular vehicles with the tennis, no, I did not drive them. Just I was busy playing tennis at the time anyway. I really I didn't have too much time to really drive the car anyway. But they were really there. Just they kept them
Hmm.
as a gift, so they could take a look at the nice car that they were part of my tennis, and that's about it.
What a tease. Here's a great car. The keys are in it. You can't really drive it though, or you don't have the time to do it, or you have stipulations within contracts and things like that that it's for display only, things like that.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
correct. So it turned out to be display. I think the idea was for me to drive it around, but I was still young, and there were different problems. Like with the training course with the McLaren, the other course I was really too young, so that was about it. And that's and then so as far as the cars are concerned, that was really all the story was with that.
How about some of you must have gotten tons of tennis stuff, free stuff, rackets and things like that, clothing. Did you ever have to pay for any of that stuff? Maybe in the
No, I
beginning?
didn't. I didn't
Wow.
have to play with that, and that also included the stringing, the preparation of all the rackets. It included things like
Wow.
bags, accessories. So they were doing very good with that, and I that
Hmm.
was always included. So I never had to really take care of my rackets, which is very interesting. All those things were always prepared for me. They used to give me even some advertising material, advertising stickers, things like
Sure.
that from the different ones. So I had the Prince racket as the one of them, and then I had the Slazinger, and they always
Hmm.
supplied me with advertising things and things like that.
At
I think the
one
Slazinger, I
time,
remember in one in particular, we had a photo session just for Slazinger where I wore all Slazinger sweats, Slazinger rackets. They had Slazinger on the nets. They put Slazinger um, different kinds of advertising,
sure.
and they did a whole photo shoot of that. They must have a record of it someplace, and they did
I'm
a
I'm
whole
not the
photo
tennis
shoot.
expert. I just, I'm the weekend player every, maybe once a month. So I know that brand's name. Is it still around?
Yes, Slazinger is still in business.
Well, didn't know. Wow. Like,
As
I,
far as pro tennis again, they really only sponsor the very top players. They are very they really only want the very top players to be sponsored, and the whole thing with the Slazing is very strict. If you aren't uh currently ATP, you
mm,
cannot advertise Slazinger anymore. You just have to put all their things.
wow. How many rackets did you have at one time?
Well, I think usually I would always have three rackets. That is a standard. I always have three rackets. But as the rackets were breaking, they always gave me replacement rackets. So I think in total I might have 50 or more rackets.
My gosh. All right. So you mean over the span of your tennis career, you're saying you had 50?
Yes, yes, I had 50
Wow.
rackets. But
Wow.
I used to break the rackets so many, and I used to get some extra ones at home. I had extra rackets,
Hmm.
and I once had a bag of 10 rackets. I remember I broke all those rackets. I used to go through all the rackets
Unreal.
very quickly.
What in terms of injuries? I know everybody at some point is going to, playing any sport, you're going to have an injury. What was the worst one that you had?
But I think the worst injuries I had was I had some sprained ankles. I had some muscle pulls,
Hmm.
things like that, and that's about it. And then they would eventually heal. As long as my body could heal naturally, that was the best way for it to heal. And of course, I put on things like ace bandages, put shields on my knee, things like that, and then everything went good.
Wow. How about some other things as you flash back to that tennis career?
Oh yeah, the one thing is when I was playing so good, some players didn't want to play me again. They didn't want to lose playing me. But what
Hmm.
a very interesting thing about pro tennis is if they turn down the match with me to play and then taking their chances they would lose the match. What they did is if they cancel the match, they don't want to play, they get lowered one ranking point. which is pretty big. So if you're like the 100th player and you turn down the match to play me, they got to put down that you're now the 101th player, and that's pretty big. And then so what they're doing with that is they're taking a strategy. It's really a strategy in any sport. In tennis, you have a strategy. You can say you don't want to play the match, you don't want to lose the match. There's always a chance it's on television too, and then you would feel bad about it. And then but you would get lowered one ranking point.
Oh, okay.
So then you'd have to make it back playing other players to try to move up. So you would lose one ranking point, but then you would play other players to move back, and maybe play other players at the tournament. Maybe at the tournament, the last game of the tournament, I wouldn't be playing that tournament. They could play someone else, and they could win the tournament. So that is one strategy of tennis that was taking place. In fact, one thing about myself, I never turned down one match my whole career.
So how did that work when another player said that they didn't want to play you? Did they have that choice? Is it free choice, or is it just, the way the matches are planned out, the player would have to play you? Do they always have the option of not wanting to play?
Yes, they do have the option not to play, but they receive that penalty of one ranking point reduction
If they didn't play.
Yes.
And if they did play and they lost, what would happen with the ranking?
They might not even lose a ranking point if they lost the match, but is it possible they still could lose one ranking point? But then I guess they didn't want to play as far as a strategy of not wanting to lose to me. Maybe it would make them feel bad.
Right.
They get bad publicity. It could be on television, things like that. So it was their own decision. It's their own strategy of how to play.
So it would be better to not play you, drop a point in the ranking, than to play you and potentially lose, and that would look worse, I guess, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Well, wow. I guess at least as an out, just don't play. Well, interesting the way this whole thing works.
Yeah, that's the one strategy in tennis that is taking place.
I didn't know that they would have the option of not playing, because I would think that it was structured in a certain way. But I guess that, if it got to the level of like Wimbledon or the Open, where you need to play this next player to advance to the next round, and then you can't say, I'm not going to play.
Yeah, I think if they feel forced enough, then of course they would play. But if some players, they did turn down playing me after they lost the first match against me, they didn't want to play me again. Thus, I guess they really had to. So that was their own decision. And then they just received a one rank point penalty. It's up to them.
Wow. We're just about out of time. I had other questions. So we have to, press the pause button until next time. Always fascinating talking with you, John. Like, I just knowing the history that you've experienced and where you are now, and just getting the background on, this amazing sport. Personally, I can't wait till it warms up here in the Northeast and I can go hit the court.
Yes, one point I wanted to add was that I was counting the number of matches, but when I added in the Japan team and Perot, my total wins for ATP matches, it did go over 60 wins. So I was able to get over 60 wins.
Wow. 60 wins and
60 tournament wins.
Right. And a $30 million contract, just insane. and you were barely
went up to 100 million. It was a solid 100 million.
That's just crazy. And you weren't even 25 yet. Just amazing. The website, if you want to check out more, especially the architect work that he does, it's johnriggio.com, John Riggio.com. John, always great talking with you, and look forward next time we get a chance to get together.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.